Hey, deserving listeners, Love is Blind, the reunion. Let's continue watching and see what happens and see what comes flying out of my face as I watch.
Do all these things. At the end of the day, nobody cares. No, because if they did, we wouldn't be here right now having more accusations about something that we squashed a year ago. But I understand that I completely fucked up. At how much more responsibility do I have to take?
It's really disappointing and notable, and he doesn't have to answer to any of us, and it sounds like he has already apologized to Monica, and just how much he doesn't understand the context. For the audience, we have only seen what's on the show. And so maybe you have apologized and made up for it and everything's good. And all you got to do is just say, I did something horrible. And there's a lot of context to it that doesn't justify it. He's kind of implying that, right? He's basically saying it's a situation. There's a lot of things I can't get into. And maybe there is a story there. Maybe there's something there. I can't imagine what it would be that would justify it. Pretty disappointing. His vibe is, I am a victim. I'm the victim.
I had a moment of weakness where somebody texted me and they were talking about a heart condition. And then immediately after that, they go into, so I've gone into some interesting fetishes lately, understanding that this is probably a reaction or a conversation that I should not entertain.
Okay, so he's giving information, and that's interesting. I wonder what face Marshall is making right now. Although, do the past cast members watch the show? Are they given a chance? Or had that episode aired yet? I'm guessing it had been, but anyway, because I'm guessing that he could be, if this was filmed, the reunion was filmed when I think it could be like just a few days after that episode aired, and he's like in the middle of not only just the internet reacting to him, but maybe his family and friends. Who knows? But what did he say?
Fucked up. At how much more responsibility do I have to take? I had a moment of weakness where somebody texted me.
I had a moment of weakness. What weakness? Where someone texted me about a heart condition. I had a moment of weakness. Weakness?
And they were talking about a heart condition. And then immediately after that, they go into, so I've gone into some interesting fetishes lately, understanding that this is probably a reaction or a conversation that I should not entertain.
Maybe this is how it played itself out, but his story is that he was a victim here too, that he had a moment of weakness. Well, what is that weakness? Because he's saying that someone texted him about a heart condition. And who is this person? Is it a random person, like the way he was talking about at the fireworks thing about people slipping into his DMs? This is before the show was aired, so it would have been not a part of his fame that he was talking about eventually having. But was it an old fling? Maybe we'll never know. But anyway, he's saying that I had a moment of weakness and they texted me about a heart condition. So how is it a moment of weakness that someone plus why is someone, so that makes it sound like it's someone that he knows. Why would a rando? Anyway.
I was still curious how you made this jump, so I said, what kind of fetishes? And then I entertained that. Yeah, I entertained that conversation, and I knew I shouldn't. And then I put my phone down during the sleep study, and I said, you know what? I've done this before. I know where it ends. This is the man I don't want to be. But I never deleted it because...
And we also, I'm reminding myself that he also said, or someone said, that he was also drunk during the sleep study. And I know a lot of people assume that he wasn't at the sleep study. It doesn't really matter if he was at it or not. He still cheated, so there's that. And maybe his problematic behavior goes beyond, which I'm assuming it does, because if he was caught, typically if you catch someone in this situation, it usually is the tip of the iceberg. It's not always, but what are the chances that the one time this has happened, he was caught? Anyway, who knows? But is saying that he had a moment of weakness, and then she mentions out of the blue that she's into some fetishes. Now, after the show aired, I could see a rando doing that, either trolling or not. But why do you have people texting you while you're engaged, and then they say, I'm into, like, they volunteer that? Who knows? Maybe it was that way, but I would imagine it's not. Maybe Monica will say, yeah, that's what it was. And he's also sort of downplaying it, like, yeah, and then we just kind of talked about fetishes for a second. The way Monica was putting it was that they were entertaining each other, basically sexting, right, from the evening before and into the next day.
Because to me, I emotionally conquered a demon that I've been fighting for a while.
We do have a picture. He was at a sleep study, so that part is true.
Yeah.
Okay, again, it doesn't matter. And a lot of people focused on that. You know, he wasn't at a sleep study, or who knows. And it's like, what does that matter? It doesn't matter if we know that he was cheating over texting, but apparently we have a picture of him. And so, okay, fine, he was at a sleep study. So whatever he did apologize for to Monica in the past, either he forgot or he never was being genuine, because he would not have this attitude if he was truly sorry for. He doesn't seem to be sorry at all for what he did, at all. He's talking like the way someone talks typically right after they cheat. This is not the sort of demeanor that people typically have when they've been through a lot of therapy and they have sorrow about it.
Not entertained. I was still curious how you made this jump, so I said, what kind of fetishes?
Right, so I rewound it to go over his statements here. He's, again, trying to deflect. He's trying to make it sound reasonable, and he's saying, look, of course, you know, and then everyone laughs, and Marshall even sarcastically says, well, of course you got to do that. And for him, he's saying, look, I was just curious, like anyone else would have been. She mentioned that she had fetishes, and I'm just curious. That's all that it was, and so that's what I did.
And then I entertained that. Yeah, I entertained that conversation, and I knew I shouldn't. And then I put my phone down in a sleep study, and I said, you know what? I've done this before. I know where it ends. This is the man I don't want to be. But I never deleted it because, to me, I emotionally conquered a demon that I've been fighting for a while.
So then he says that he voluntarily put the phone down and deleted it. That's what he said. He deleted it because this is a demon that he's been fighting for a while. What is that demon? I don't know. Could be some form of sexual compulsion. It could be a lot of things, but okay.
We do have a picture. He was at a sleep study, so that part is true.
Yeah.
This was from that night.
Yeah, and I just want to point out that, if this is a legit picture, and who knows, it could have been a picture he took before or later, but if it is legit, a lot of people were saying that how could it possibly be that he did a sleep study during the filming of the show? And I'm thinking, your medical problems don't cease to exist while you're filming a show. If someone had a scheduled root canal or something, you got to get it taken care of. And also, when you schedule these things, you schedule them in advance pretty far. And so, anyway, I'm just, I don't know why I'm focusing on that.
But something that sticks out is, Monica, in the pods, I remember early on, he spoke about cheating. He said, I slipped into a girl's DMs, and your reaction was surprising in the sense of, I'm so sorry, thank you for sharing that. But it was an interesting, in hindsight, red flag. Do you think, looking now at the situation, that maybe you had rose-colored glasses and maybe you ignored some of these?
We'll hear what Monica has to say, and I think people are saying that about her, but there's no way to know. A lot of people cheat, and I think if you assume that cheating is rare, and also that cheating means that you are a particular sort of person, which is not true, then one could ask Monica this question legitimately, like, did you have rose-colored glasses on? Were you deluding yourself? Were you gaslit? Whatever. No. A lot of people have cheated, especially by a certain age, and it doesn't say anything about the person. When you are dating and that is disclosed, I would listen very carefully to how they talk about it. If they take responsibility, if they learned anything from it, that sort of thing. What were the circumstances? Because there's a lot of different types of infidelity, right? You could cheat for 5 years on your spouse and not really care, or you can have a cheating moment online and feel deep regret about it, and maybe your marriage was falling apart, but you weren't really broken up. So, there's different circumstances. Anyway, so no, I don't think that she should have known. We can, with 2020, say, oh, well, there's a sign. But if that's all that you had to go off of, there'd be no way to know.
Signs because you wanted to be married and find your person.
Honestly,
Do you think that
no. I don't think so. I think Stephen and I's conversation in the pod was obviously much longer than you all get to see. And that was the first of many of them. And
I'm glad that she's sticking up for herself. I mean, I don't know if it's sticking up for herself, but she's saying, no, I didn't have rose-colored glasses on. And we talked about, sounds like they talked about that a lot more. And yeah, I can absolutely see someone in Monica's shoes feeling pretty optimistic about the future, given the way that he comes across. He comes across as someone in the pods as someone who's very self-aware and willing to admit when he has done something wrong. That gives the signal of someone that has learned from their mistakes and won't do it again, right? Like you hear Hannah, the way that she responds to accusations and discussions about her behavior towards Nick, and you would not trust Hannah in the future because she is denying the whole thing, right? And the way that Stephen was talking in the pods was he seemed extremely self-aware and humble and had explored a lot of aspects of his personality, and maybe that's true. But clearly, there's more to be done. Maybe he's just one of those people that has been through a lot and has noticed that there are some issues and has worked on them in an admirable way. But given the extent of those issues that alerted him to work on it in the first place, he's a long way to go.
dated a lot of cheaters and not anyone until Stephen had been honest about an indiscretion. So I very much appreciated the fact that he was telling me this so early into our relationship. I actually saw it as a yellow flag, maybe not like a green flag, but he was being honest about it. And he said in that conversation that he'd been in therapy ever since.
Yeah, and the way that Stephen is nodding his head, I think he thinks that this is vindicating him or something. Well, all that Monica is talking about is I heard a lot in the pods that made me think that he would actually be much better along these lines because of the things that he was saying. Turned out not to be true. I'm also wondering if, with Monica saying this, if he'll relax a little bit and actually differentiate and actually exhibit sorrow for what he did.
It was the biggest mistake he ever made. He was really, really hard on himself once he got caught. There was a lot that he did in terms of trying to do the work and still doing the work. And I never in a million years, even though he shared that with me, that he'd done it before, he made me feel so safe that when I say I never saw it coming, never in a million years.
Yeah. And if anyone accuses, and I've seen this, of Monica being delulu or something because she didn't see it coming, I highly disagree with that. The way that he was presenting, and they had a lot more conversations apparently, he would, I guess everyone's going to have their own take, but if I were in Monica's shoes, I would say, well, there's maybe a little bit of a greater chance that he has some sort of compulsion or some sort of impulse that is above average, but the amount of therapy and the amount of humility and the amount of self-awareness that he has surely will offset it enough, right? Because another person that you would date might not have the impulse that he exhibits and talks about, but they also don't have the self-awareness and the amount of recovery or therapy or healing or whatever. And so, how do you figure that out? Yeah, so I don't think Monica's to blame or anything. In fact, I think she was right to assume that there's a lot of strengths there that would protect him and the relationship from that kind of thing.
So people might, watch the show and think differently, like there were signs there. Maybe we weren't going to make it all the way. We certainly weren't supposed to, that's for sure, but...
And really, it's just another form of victim blaming that is happening, that people would blame her. Oh, you should have known. And no, no. Unless someone just flat out tells you, I'm going to cheat on you, then it's natural to assume that other people are not going to do that because it's lying, it's hurtful, it's destructive. Why would you do that? And that's just, that's okay.
I never in a million years would have thought he would have emotionally cheated on me. Never.
Do you regret it?
Yeah, of course.
Do you still talk to this woman?
This is the weird part, and nobody's gonna believe this, but I only talked to her that one day. I've never met this girl in person.
Yeah, so me and Monica have the same look. It looks like Monica didn't know any of the details. And that all could be true. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He keeps bringing up things, I think, thinking that it's going to vindicate him. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he was at the sleep study or not. It doesn't matter if it was the one time. It doesn't matter if she contacted him. It doesn't matter if she mentioned the heart thing or that she brought up fetishes. But also, how is it that you have a rando person contacting you? I mean, unless you're on some sort of website that, has that kind of connection of fetishes or something. So his claim is that someone randomly, because it wouldn't be text, right? Because you're not going to just randomly prank text someone, or not typically. So someone DMs him on Instagram. Do we know? I forget the detail. And volunteers that she has a heart condition, and then volunteers that she has she must have known that he was into that. I don't know. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. He's also minimizing what happened because Monica told us, and he didn't refute it anyway, that it happened the night before and the next day. The next day they were doing something. My contact told me what happened. And we also, I think, heard from Monica. I heard that Monica was on some other show, or maybe Nick Vile or something, and I plan on looking into that. So we heard that Monica had seen on his phone or something while he was not in the room or something like that. So it was well into the next day.
This is someone that I knew through Instagram. Never met her in person, only talked to her that one day. I know what it sounds like, but that's the truth.
Again, it doesn't matter, but there's got to be more to that story. Just a random person on Instagram decides to text you about their heart condition and their fetishes? What?
I haven't talked to her since.
Monica?
I don't know. I know that those texts were very long.
Right. That's the way she was talking about it originally. The way he's talking about it right now, it was like 2 or 3 exchanges, and it was only the night before. So I'm glad she's reiterating this, because I was starting to wonder, was she exaggerating the moment because she was upset? But she's saying, no. There were many back and forths. It's not even a mistake to do what he did in the beginning, right? It's every text you could argue involves 10 choices for every message, right? Because what are you going to say? Should I say something? Should I shut it down? Should I explain that I'm engaged?
They went a ways back. I mean, you didn't start texting her that day on Instagram.
No, I've known her for years. Those
Okay,
texts are just, I don't delete my text threads. And that's the other thing. I don't delete my text threads. Monica.
So I've known her for years. Oh, so was he only saying, what is he saying? It doesn't really matter.
You didn't start texting her that day on Instagram.
No, I've known her for years. Those
Okay,
texts are just, I don't delete my text threads. And that's the other thing. I don't delete my text threads. Monica knew I didn't have a password on my phone. I
I
set
didn't
it
know that. I didn't know if you had a password or not. I don't know if you had a password. You've been.
Okay, that's weird. I mean, just as a security issue, I don't think I've known anyone that didn't have. I didn't even know that. I didn't even know that was an option. I thought like it was just a mandatory function. But yeah, I guess you could just turn off your security. And yeah, you know, I could see that. It's like, well, if you think you're never gonna lose your phone, then whatever. But anyway, so what? He's known her for years and been texting with her for years, but it was a once. I don't know. Huh?
Of course.
Do you still talk to this woman?
This is the weird part, and nobody's going to believe this, but I only talked to her that one day. I've never met this girl in person.
Yeah, I rewound this, and he says, I only talked to her that one day, and I have never met her in person. Again, it doesn't matter. Why bring it up? But he is saying, so how does that make any sense? What?
Nobody's going to believe this, but I only talked to her that one day.
I only talked to her that one day. So the only way that would make any sense, other than him just flat out lying, is that he has been texting her as a friend, and then randomly she decides to say, by the way, I've been looking into some fetishes. I mean, it's possible. But I don't know. If he had been friends with her and not in person, so this is someone you've been texting for years that you've never met. That's fine. People have online friends. And why would you word it this way? So he's lying in front of Monica, who knows differently. I think that's what we're, or at the very least, he's deceptive in his language, right?
I've never met this girl in person. This is someone that I knew through Instagram. Never met her in person, only talked to her that one.
Okay, it sounds like a friend through Instagram, and then the texting only happened that one. So they switched from Instagram to texting.
Day. I know what it sounds like, but that's the truth.
Okay, I guess he's confusing in his language. But given what Monica says later, but she's saying that the text thread goes back, I don't know. And is he talking about literal text, or is he it doesn't really matter. But there's a chance that he is lying now, which wouldn't be strange, right?
I don't know. I know that those texts were very long. Like, they a ways back. I mean, you didn't start texting her that day on Instagram.
No, I've known her for years. Those
Okay,
texts are just, I don't delete my text threads. And that's the other thing. I don't delete my text threads.
Didn't he say that he deleted it? Didn't he say while he was at the sleep study? I kind of want to rewind.
What kind of fetishes? And then I entertained that. Yeah, I entertained that conversation, and I knew I shouldn't. And then I put my phone down during the sleep study, and I said, you know what? I've done this before. I know where it ends. This is the man I don't want to be. But I never deleted it because, to me, I emotionally conquered a demon that I...
Oh, he said he didn't delete it. I think I originally thought he said I did delete it. I didn't delete it because I have conquered a demon. I wonder what that demon... I mean, it's... At first, the thought or the assumption of a sexual addict that I figured people would be bandying about him, I was, saying it was possible, but pushing back on because it's a very commonly misapplied disorder, because it's a disorder, it's a compulsion, and people mistake, individuals who will do things like cheating and other kinds of stuff sexually and then seemingly regret it later, or it's a self-destructive act and they will assume that it's someone that is a nymphomaniac or a sex addict, and that's just not the case most of the time. Having said that, there are people who legitimately have a compulsion with sex. I've treated people with this disorder. It's hard to kick, like any addiction, and it comes from trauma, like most, if not all, addiction. So this is starting to look more and more like that, like that's a possibility? This, when he says that demon?
That day on Instagram.
No, I've known her for years. Those
Okay,
texts are just, I don't delete my text threads. And that's the other thing. I don't delete my text threads. Monica knew I didn't have a password on my phone.
I didn't know that. I didn't know if you had a password or not. I don't know if you had a password. You've been saying that too, like you should have a password on your phone. I didn't know. I wasn't like sneaking in your phone. I didn't know.
No, and I'm not saying you were. I'm just saying we
Okay.
talked about it in the pods. My phone, especially in a relationship, is completely open to my partner because if I'm doing something wrong, I deserve to get caught.
Yeah, it's sounding more and more like, at the very least, there's a pattern there. And I imagine that there is. And he seems to have developed that policy of not having a passcode on us, which I have to say is pretty rare. It almost makes him look like more of a risk because, it's sort of like he's gone full circle. He's like, okay, I need to hide things, but if I look like I'm trying to hide things, then I will get, anyway, I hope, my brain is sort of glitching on this, but anyway, so it sounds like what he is telling us is that he knows that if he doesn't have a lot of things in place, he will either cheat. I don't know if he's saying he'll cheat. Like he's like, I need to not have a lock on my phone because then if I do, that will give me another incentive to cheat. Or he might be saying, I've learned that because I tend to do these things, I want to build trust, so I need to be disciplined about not having my phone have a passcode. Or it's nefarious and it's a trick. He is saying, look, my phone's wide open. Meanwhile, he's deleting things or he has an app that you can't find or who knows.
A relationship is completely open to my partner because if I'm doing something wrong, I deserve to get caught. 100%. And that's essential.
And that statement, if I'm doing something wrong, I deserve to be caught. That fits with that hypothesis I was talking about earlier. I don't know, but that self-punishment aspect, right? And then maybe he would admit, he'd be like, yeah, I have a problem and I have a lot of systems in place to have learned. It's sort of like if you suffer from alcohol addiction, you don't allow alcohol in your house and you don't go to a bar, right? That he'd say like, look, my phone's wide open because if, it's just another incentive for me to avoid my compulsive, cravings or something. But just think about the typical person. We don't, I have a passcode on my phone and so does Stacy, but at no point is it a question as to whether or not cheating is happening. I don't have a passcode on my phone because I'm hiding anything from my wife. It's just because if I lose my phone or if I drop it or something, I'll have one layer of protection where I'll be able to get to my computer and remotely, wipe the phone or find it or something. Anyway, so it's particular.
Actually, what was happening?
But just stop doing something wrong.
You're absolutely right.
From sleep tests
Hey-o.
to sleeping while the
I don't know if they edited, but Monica says, well, if you don't do wrong things, then you don't have to have all these measures and just don't do the wrong thing. And yeah, but maybe it's a compulsion and I don't know. We just didn't. I wish they wouldn't transition so fast to another couple. I wish someone would ask him to slow down and give him an opportunity, I guess, to exhibit sorrow, or ask him, when you decided to continue talking with this person, what was your state of mind? I'd be really curious what his answer would. Maybe he would deceive and evade that, but I think the conversation went really quickly, and at least this, because I'm curious about that. Would he say something like, I was really questioning whether or not I wanted to marry her because we ran into some problems, and I have a problem with this sort of, I can't, given what he was saying, I don't think he would say something, because he would have just said that. Or if he were being honest, he might say, I'm just a really horny guy and I just want to do everybody, or I don't know. Or when I was being hooked up to all those machines, it was actually like engaging my fetish. Or, but why would he be drunk at the thing? And people will say, you can't be drunk at those things. And what I'll say is, well, if you hide it, because when I did it, they didn't do a breathalyzer on me or anything. And plus the individual that is hooking you up to all those leads, because it's the night shift, it's graveyard, right? It's like you go in there late at night, bedtime, and it's not your doctor typically. It's just a tech that is there to hook you up and to monitor the screens, and they're not super invested in the situation because they're never going to see you again. So if one were to be intoxicated, and even if the tech would smell it, I can imagine the tech just saying, "Not my problem," and just moving forward. So who knows? But yeah, I just wish they would have asked more questions. I wish they would have asked Monica how she's doing. How did it feel? It sounds like you forgave him. Why did you forgive him? But yeah, there's just so many things that are, but that's just going to happen, I guess. All right. Well, that does it for that episode. Tune in next time when I continue watching if you care to. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself because you deserve it. You really, really do.